Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, we're going to discuss the election that just happened. We're going to analyze a few things as to why a lot of people didn't show up or showed up, what happened, and anything else. That's kind of what we're going to discuss, just a dissection of what happened during the election last week. Now, I don't really want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but here we are. And there's a couple of things that I actually called during this show and another show I do with Sean Cummings, which is the Will Rogers Experiment that we do as a podcast on iHeartRadio. And anyway, the election happened. What happened? Well, Kamala Harris lost. She didn't just lose the delegates as far as what she needed to win to take the presidency. She also lost the popular vote, which has been a while since a Democrat has actually lost the popular vote. So what happened? Well, I've discussed this before, and I seem to have hit it pretty good. One, a lot of people were counting on the Taylor Swift effect. She got a whole bunch of young people to sign up to vote. But guess what happened, which is like what always happens, and that is young people didn't vote. They didn't show up to vote. They might have registered to vote, but they didn't actually go to the polls and do it. Which, hey, that's the statistics that's happened ever since the late 1960s when they gave kids over 18 the right to vote. You see, and you got to understand that that's just how it is, because back in the 60s, the late 60s, they wanted to give kids 18 and over the right to vote because they were lowering and lowering the age of conscription for the Vietnam War. And you would think something so important as, hey, they're going to send your butt off to die in a foreign land in a war that you don't want to go to. You think that would spur kids of that age who are being affected to go vote. But guess what happened? They didn't vote. They didn't vote then. So if they're not going to vote then on an important issue like staying alive, well, they're not going to vote now. And they don't. So putting your eggs in the wrong baskets is what happens when Democrats lose. And that's exactly what happened here. It's not just with the young vote who didn't show up, but also other things. You know, and I get it. Democrats want to champion the underdog. They want to fight for the underdog and the little guy. And sometimes those people don't vote. Now, who is the underdog that they should be championing? Well, labor, right? You think that's who the Democrats should be championing and everything else. But guess what they haven't been doing? They really haven't been championing labor all that much. They feel like they've been left behind because, see, Democrats want to champion and defend trans people. See, and one thing about trans people, I did a show about this about a year or more ago when this thing started blowing up and talked to some trans people about it. And guess what? One, they don't vote. They don't vote. Trans people typically don't vote. Not only that, trans people in general make up less than 0.5% of the electorate. So this is kind of a strategy of Republicans because, see, Democrats seem to be so easily led by any kind of bait you throw at them. So this seems like, well, you know, I think this was a strategy from Republicans. We see we'll get the most marginalized groups. We'll go after them. That'll force Democrats to defend them. And then they'll forget about labor, the people, the working people that really need the champions in the Democratic Party that you just didn't have in the last several years. I'd say at least 10 or 15. It's been a sea change of things. And so they've been throwing things out. And also the other thing is abortion issue. Now, I saw some movements on this and everything else, women's health care and all that stuff. But really, that wasn't as big of an issue as it was for a lot of people since they turned it to the states. Not realizing that, you know what, now that the Republicans have probably swept the House as well as the Senate and the presidency, and they have the courts on their side, probably going to have a national abortion ban. But they're not going to do that. They've been saying they're not going to do that. Yeah, well, you know what? They've been saying that Project 2025 isn't the agenda either. And now that they've won, guess what? Matt Walsh, Nathan Dahm, a whole lot of other people are now saying, yeah, you know what? We lied to you because we didn't want you to not vote for us. So, yeah, Project 2025, that is the agenda. It absolutely is. Get ready for it. National abortion bans, national bans on contraception, national laws on Christian nationalism to force you to marry and stay married and be in abusive relationships. So this is where they're at, right? So this is what happened. They didn't really tackle the big issues as hard that could be winners for them, and allowed the Republicans to make them defend marginalized groups that don't vote. And that's exactly what happened. That's what happened. You see, they didn't vote. People didn't vote. And when they did vote, they didn't vote for the Democrats. And I see some things. Oh, we need a recount. We need to see. Oh, it's all funny. The math doesn't add up. No, the math adds up. It absolutely does. The vote, the election was secure. It was fair. It was free, and everything else. And you can see this. A lot of amendments and a lot of initiative petitions, even on abortion, because that was a state-issued thing now, right? They took it out of the federal thing. Those passed overwhelmingly. The abortion and even medical marijuana and even just legalizing marijuana, period, those are liberal issues. Guess what? Those passed. Those passed with flying colors in a lot of places, except for like Florida, where you have to have 2/3 of the voters vote for something or pass an initiative petition, which is kind of silly. But we know why they do that. Republicans do that so that, the will of people doesn't have to be heard. See, and that's what this is all about. So now, we're going to see what happens. Is Trump going to be a dictator? Probably. Will we ever be able to vote again? I don't know. We'll see what happens. A lot of people seem to think that, it's going to be okay. But you know what? I don't know. Some of the people he's got in there, they're going to start rounding people up. Stephen Miller was just out the other day saying that, you know what? We don't care if you're a naturalized citizen. If you're an immigrant and you're naturalized, we're going to check into that. And if things are fishy, we're shipping you out of the country. Did you, as an American citizen, marry someone who's a foreigner and now they're U.S. citizens because you married them? Well, guess what? We're going to change that law and we're going to get rid of your spouse. That's exactly what he said. See, because he's a racist. He doesn't like anybody who's not white being in the United States of America. See, he wants all the power for himself. See, people like Steve Miller, they're icky people. But this is what we got. These are the people that are going to be in leadership. People like, Donald Trump, who's a felon. Not only that, we have Steve Bannon, who's probably going to be back in there too, who is a felon. We're going to have a bunch of felons, a bunch of crooks running our government because, people didn't vote. Not only that, they didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And there's a lot of things that go in with this. One, she had like 93 days to campaign for presidency. That's hard to do. I even called that, hey, we're switching horses midstream here. That's really tough to win an election when you do that. And I saw, the polling, that's kind of weird. She got a lot of money, but it didn't pan out because, in the end, not enough people knew enough about her. Because, you only had 93 days to campaign for a presidential election because, see, President Joe Biden didn't get out early enough. He didn't. I'm sorry. That's part of it too. That's not the only thing. There's no elixir here. There's no just one silver bullet that caused the election to be lost to Democrats. And in a big way. I mean, we don't have the Senate and we don't have the House. We lost the Senate. Which Democrats are in control of. And the House, well, we weren't in control of it. But the cool thing is here, one silver lining is we did pick up 2 or 3 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Actually did pick up some seats on the Democratic side, but it wasn't enough to take it. It's not going to be enough. And I know Hakeem Jeffries, right? I'm sorry. This makes him look weaker than he was. It does. I mean, it really does. He's kind of a weak leader. He's not as strong as Nancy Pelosi, though he is younger, and that's what we need. We don't need someone in their 80s leading our party. We really don't. But we need somebody that's at least tougher than Hakeem Jeffries, And I hate to say it in a racist nation like this, you come out with a name Hakeem, and you're probably going to get some ill will because of that. and it does matter. It really does who we put into leadership. Some of these things, I mean, you need really tough and smart people in there. Swalwell. There you go. And the other guy from Florida, the really smart guy from Florida, and even the other guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Raskin. There you go. Those guys, they should be somewhere in the top leadership. Hakeem Jeffries, you hardly see the guy. I see those other three guys I just mentioned way more than I see him. It's like, what's he doing? Where was he at? And I get it. Hey, we gained a few seats in the House. It really wasn't enough. And it does weaken him. It also weakens the guys in the Senate. It totally does. Whoever the leaders were over there. Because Democrats lost the Senate. Not only that, just the Democratic Party in general. Which we see because, when it comes to voter registration, Democrats have been lacking in the last, 5 to 10 years. Haven't been really signing up the people that the Republicans have. But a big deal again is, hey, you know what? Democrats kind of put labor on the back burner. The laborers, the workers, the people that have been the base of the Democratic Party for so long. And now we've gone to all this. We gotta protect these biological males competing against women. Nobody likes that. I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't think biological males, whether they want to think they're women or not, should be competing against females. It isn't fair. Everybody sees that. The Leah Thompson deal, the swimmer, right? Come on. Is that person really trans? I mean, I think it's a whole show. Every time I see Leah Thompson, they're not wearing women's clothing, really. The only thing that Leah did is grow their hair long. That's pretty much it. It's a scam. The only reason Leah Thompson is claiming to be trans is so that they can compete against women and win competitions. That's what that is. And you got to notice it for what it is. The guy's a fraud. I'm going to call him a guy because, really, you look at him, the only thing they do to make themselves trans was grow their hair long. And there's a lot of guys with long hair these days that just aren't gay or trans. Sorry, they're not. So that doesn't really apply. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Even if they were, it still doesn't fly that a biological male should compete against women. Now, this all gets muddied because we had that boxer, in the Olympics, but that's a whole different deal. That person actually is a biological female. They just have an extra chromosome. That's all that is. And yeah, they actually have female body parts, but it gets muddied when you get people and frauds like Leah Thompson, and then you get the Democrats to champion that. And then you get all the people on the right going, woke, it's all woke. And and there's no way you can defend against it. There's just no way. And then, again, trans people don't vote. They don't vote. I actually talked to a trans person, when was it, a year or so ago, and they don't vote. You want a reason why they said they didn't vote? Because they didn't want to see their dead name on a voter roll. Because that's what it would be, right? It'd be their original name, that their birth name is. They'd have to go in, show an ID with that, and sign their original name, and they don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But I want Democrats to champion me. I want them to be my defender, but I'm not going to go vote for them. And that's exactly where they're at. And Democrats, oh yeah, we're going to champion these people. So they go after the lowest denominators that the Republicans attack because they feel like they got to defend them. That's just where they're at. When Democrats just missed the boat, they just really misread the strategy. They really misread the electorate. And you're right. I guess the biggest issue was the economy. It really was. When you look at all the exit polling, most people, 2/3 of the people, were really more concerned about the economy. Yeah, the price of eggs, rather than be, owned as a slave like women will probably be now. Because, yeah, you got that Nick Fuentes guy, right? The self-avowed neo-Nazi who said, yeah, I own you now, women. Your body's mine, and that's just how it is. And that's what he said. He came out and even so boldly said it. It's like disgusting. And then the other disgusting thing is you had other conservatives actually get behind that. So, yeah, the economy, and it is. That's one of the biggest issues. It always is. It should always be, too, probably, the economy. Even though, hey, looking at the facts, the United States of America did better with inflation and the economy than other nations did. But you know what happened? Democrats did not show that contrast. I didn't see that very much. They didn't use that as any kind of campaign as a fight back on the economy. They didn't. They went to protecting trans people. They went to anything other than the big issues that people were caring about, like the economy and women's health care. They actually came out a little bit on abortion and everything else, but really it was pretty weak. They didn't really nail that hard because, again, Republicans, strategy-wise, sent that back to the states. Oh, that's a states issue now. It's a states issue now. It's not federal. And sure enough, on the state side, it's a winner for Democrats. It really is. So some people did show up to vote, not enough. You look at the numbers, less people. The Democratic side showed up to vote this time than in 2020. They really did. And so now we got a whole sweep in the federal government of hard right-wing conservatives. And we'll see. We'll see if we actually have another election again. We'll see. They may ban the Democratic Party. You never know. They have the people in the places to actually pass stuff like that. We're going to make Democrats a terrorist organization now. I could see James Lankford doing something as silly as that. I could really do that. I could see crazy nutballs over there, like that whack job from Louisiana, or there's a couple of whack jobs from Louisiana, who would do something like that. Clay Higgins, absolutely, would put in some kind of bill to outlaw the Democratic Party and label them a terrorist organization. I could see that. I can see that. I could see how they could just say, you know what, we're just going to make this a dictatorship. We're going to make it a Christian nation. This is now an autocratic theocracy. Trump's in charge. He'll get to decide who the successor will be, and Republicans will help him decide that. And that's pretty much where we're at with things. What happened with the election this year with, young people don't vote, neither do trans people, and Democrats putting their eggs in the wrong baskets, defending the people that won't even vote for them, leaving labor to the side, and letting Republicans just lead them with baits. And this is what happens. They lost a bunch of elections. Anyway, this is Across the Desk, and it's going to be the end of season 10 right here. So we'll see you next season, which will be middle of January. Later.